Hello, my friends. It's Ms. Stevenson again, and I'm here to do another symmetrical picture with you today. Now, for this activity, we need paint. So if you don't have paint at home, that's okay. You can maybe draw another symmetrical picture with markers or crayons or whatever you do have at home. But I wanted to show you a way to make a symmetrical picture using paint if you have it at home. So I have only 3 colors at home. I have yellow and blue and red. This will work with whatever colors you have. Maybe you only have 1 color at home. That's fine, it'll work with 1 color, but it's just a neat trick that I wanted to show you. You only need a little bit of paint. See? Little tiny bit. I didn't use a lot. And I'm going to use all 3 colors for my symmetrical picture. This kind of painting is actually called blotto. Maybe you have done it before. It's very fun. And I only squeezed out a little bit because that's all I need and I don't want to waste my paint. It's really hard. It's pretty much impossible to get the paint back in the tubes if you have tubes like this. So we just want to squeeze out what we need at the time. Okay. And because I'm making a symmetrical picture, I'm folding my paper in half, and down the folded line down the middle, I'm going to do a line. You can either do a solid line, solid straight line, or a dotted line. It doesn't matter. You can do it in pencil and then erase it later. But I want a reminder to only paint on one side of the page. So I've done a line down the middle to remind me that I do not want to paint on the other side of the page because it will kind of ruin the trick if I do that. Okay, so now I'm going to take a bit of paint and I'm just kind of making a design, just kind of doing paint randomly around the page. And I got 3 different paintbrushes for my 3 different colors because I didn't want you to have to wait for me to wash my brush in the water after every single time, but maybe you have 1 paintbrush. See, I got red mixed in with my yellow, so now I need to wash my brush because I don't want my colors to mix. If all of the colors mix together, it will make brown. And I chose yellow, red, and blue because I want those colors. I don't want brown today. Okay, so I'm putting a little bit of blue right in the middle of the red because I want to see what's going to happen. And maybe I'll put some blue in the middle of my yellow and some blue on its own. Now, I left my paint kind of, some of it's a little bit thick on the page, and the next step has to be done while the paint is still wet or it will not work. So now I've got my paint on 1/2 of the page. It's on 1/2 of the line, 1/2 of the page, this side of the line, this side is blank. Now I'm going to fold my paper in half, right on the line that I had already folded. And I'm going to flatten it all out and rub it together. And this will make a print of what I painted on the one side will be printed onto the other half of the page. And it will be exactly the same. So it's perfectly symmetrical. It's the same on both sides. Isn't that cool? And look what happened to the spots that I layered the colors on top of each other. They kind of mixed together. Do you see that? Isn't that cool? Every time you do this, you'll get a different painting. No two blotto paintings ever look the same. I want to try it one more time. This time I'll use maybe a little bit more paint. Not too much though. If you put too much on your page, the effect kind of gets lost. So you don't want to do too much. You want to be able to see the different designs. There. Okay, now I'm going to fold my paper in half again. The paint that I'm using today is called acrylic paint. Most of the time, parents have tempera paint at home. And this will work with tempera paint as well as acrylic paint. It just will not work with watercolor paint. Okay, so there we go. I've got my line right down the fold, right down the center, and I'm only going to paint on one half of the page. This time I'm going to make my spots a little bigger. There we go. And I've got kind of circular shapes. Maybe I'll make a square here. I'll play around with shapes a little bit. That might be interesting. Like I said before, here, I'll make a rectangle here. You can make yours look any way that you like. You never have to follow exactly what I do. Even if you tried to follow exactly what I do, your work will look different because you made it. Everybody's work is original. Let's see here. There. Okay. I did a different sort of design. I put a little bit more paint, but I still left lots of white because when you fold the other paper side of the paper on top and you flatten it together, the paint is going to spread a little bit. So you want to leave some white paper there to give room for the paint to spread when you flatten the one side over. So here I've got all my paint on one half of the page. This side is blank. And now I'm going to carefully fold it together along the fold that I already made, and I'm going to rub the two sides flat together. Remember, you need to do this step when the paint is still wet. If the paint is dry, it won't make a print on the other half of the page. Look at that. Isn't that neat? A totally symmetrical painting. And like I said, if you just have one color of paint at home, this will still work. You don't have to have different colors. I just happen to have different colors already in my house. So there you go, friends. I hope that you have fun making symmetrical paintings with either acrylic paint or tempera paint. If you do use acrylic paint, be really careful of your clothes because it does not always wash out. Tempera paint washes out, but acrylic does not always wash out, so be careful. Have a great time, friends.